Hey everyone, as you may know, I have an instrumental guitar project called Defend the Sky, and for the last several years I've been working on my first full-length album. Why am I making a studio documentary about it? I love a good studio documentary. When a band that I love makes a documentary about how they made their latest album, it's one of my favorite things. And so it's an opportunity for me to be a little bit self-indulgent in something that I enjoy a lot. I haven't told a lot of people about this, but a year and a half ago or so, I started having really painful chronic issues with my hands. It was my own fault, playing too hard, too long, not taking breaks, and all of a sudden I just had this crippling pain in both my hands, in the base of my thumbs, all throughout my fingers, lots of stiffness, inflammation. I'd wake up and my hands would be so stiff it was painful to move them at all, and my joints would crack anytime I open or close my hands. I did go through a season where I wondered if I was ever going to be able to play guitar like I used to. That was really scary. Thankfully, my hands are in a way better place now. I got those issues ironed out. But that just kind of gives this process an extra element of meaning, knowing that I am in fact going to be able to share what I've been working on with other people when I worried for a while that maybe I wasn't, makes this whole project that much more special to me. This right here is me 6 years ago. This was actually the first idea that I came up with that made me want to make a full instrumental song. This is what it sounded like 6 years ago. That went on to become my song, Hope. That was where this whole thing started. And here's what it sounds like now. I hope that made you excited, because that still makes me excited. I think the driving force underneath this whole thing is the feeling that I had when I was first starting to get into instrumental guitar music. The first time I heard an interval song, the first time I heard a Pliny song, Polyphia, Arch Echo, something just awakened, and it was incredible. I didn't know music could sound like that. I didn't know music could make me feel like that, could conjure an emotional response in me like that. The dream for this album is that maybe one of my songs does that for somebody else. If that happens, that would be the most incredible feeling in the world, I think. To know that my music, something that I came up with, something that I recorded, made somebody feel like how I felt when I first heard these kind of songs, that's the dream. So I've got those 3 cymbal hits, the and then 2 on the China right after. I don't know if you can even really hear this. Though they're those 2 Chinas. I think what I want to do is have 3 China hits that mirror the first 3 cymbal hits, sort of a call and response right there. The velocities aren't dialed in yet, but let's see if you can hear what I'm going for. Yeah, that's a lot better. Here's everything. Yeah, yep, that's it. That's the one. A lot of the time spent on this album was sitting in this chair, looking at those screens, spending a lot of time staring at, creating, and moving around little colored boxes. When I started this process, I was actually planning on producing and mixing and mastering this whole album by myself. I've learned a lot over the past few years, but it became abundantly clear very quickly that my skill level was not going to do justice to the way that I wanted these songs to sound. I really struggled with the thought that my lack of ability to mix the album was going to keep it from being heard the way that I have dreamed since the beginning that people would hear it. So that was the point that I reached out to Adam Bentley. Adam Bentley is somebody that I have looked up to ever since I first got into instrumental guitar music. His work as a guitarist for Arch Echo, as a mix engineer, is legendary in this genre. If you like instrumental guitar music, you know who Adam Bentley is. And I initially just reached out to him for a consultation to see if he could help me maybe figure out some of the things I was doing wrong, help me get this thing where I needed it to go. The main result of that initial consultation, unfortunately, was that I just had an even better picture of how much I still don't know about mixing. But the cool thing about that was it led to a second conversation with Adam in which I asked him if he would be willing to take me on as a client and mix my album. When I sent the tracks over to Adam, they were still pretty unrefined. They needed a lot of help. And when you love these songs a lot and you've been working on these songs for a long time and really hard, there's always just that fear and feeling of vulnerability. Like, I'm giving my baby to somebody else. Will they get it? When I heard the first few seconds, I just instantly knew, oh wow, he got it. This whiteboard has basically been like the trail marker as I've gone through different parts of this process, and it feels really good to see it filled up. All those boxes checked. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with this thing now. When it comes to the virtual instruments that I programmed on this album, it's kind of fun and kind of frustrating because I feel like with all these things, I know just enough about them to kind of think like someone who plays that instrument. I've played just enough bass in real life to sort of understand at least some of the fundamentals of how you approach playing bass and how it's different from guitar. I've learned just enough from playing drums in a live context to be able to think a little bit like a drummer. You only have 4 limbs that can be hitting something at any given time, basic stuff like that. Drums were absolutely the instrument that gave me the most trouble. There was just this disconnect in my brain between what happens when you sit down behind an actual drum kit and trying to visualize a drum kit on that vertical piano roll It's very weird. I'm not very good at it yet. I think I've improved some throughout this process, at least hopefully. But that was one reason I was super grateful that I had Adam. He really helped a lot in that capacity, especially on The Nature of Light. He really was able to sort of get some of my ideas corralled and making a little bit more sense musically. My primary guitar for recording this album has been my custom Kiesel Aries. That's going to be the guitar that you're going to hear across 95% of the album. It's just got that special mojo to it, I guess. I've got it loaded up with a custom set of bare knuckle silo pickups. I love this set, they're fantastic. My Kiesel combined with the bare knuckle pickups really defined the sound of this album early on, and that's why it's what you're gonna hear on pretty much everything. One song on this album, The Nature of Light, is actually co-produced by Adam Bentley. It was really at the end of the process. Everything was pretty much done, and Adam just said, I want to play around with this one a little bit. Let me just see what I can do. I've got some ideas. If you don't like it, no big deal. I think it was the next day he sent me back basically his version of it, and I mean, my jaw just hit the floor. So not only is the song The Nature of Light co-produced by Adam Bentley, he also laid down a featured solo on that song, and it's incredible. Just to know that Adam Bentley, one of my guitar heroes, put down a featured solo on my song, I can't even really describe that feeling. I think the thing that I missed the most about composing and recording this entire album by myself in this room is the collaboration and the energy that you get from creating and coming up with ideas with other musicians. There's no replacing that feeling. You listen to the same things over and over again. You get so familiar with the songs and with the material. I think that was ultimately the reason why working with Adam was so special. He was able to bring out nuances of my songs, hear things I couldn't hear. He would just change up a drum fill or something like that, and every time I'd be like, ooh. And ultimately that culminated with him actually becoming co-producer on my song The Nature of Light. It sort of brought that feeling back into the process, being able to work with someone, and it was a really fun way to end the work on this album, because that was the last thing we did for so long. I would say the way I've thought about this album has been ongoing. Every part of the recording, tracking, piano roll nonsense, it was all this beautiful, tedious process. There were times that I would think, when I finish this album, I'm gonna leave this room and I'm gonna lock it up, and I am never gonna come back in here. There have been so many hours like this, just me by myself in this room, just dreaming and working towards the hope that maybe some of these songs get out of this room someday. My debut album, A Light Beyond, will be available on streaming services very soon, and the first single, The Nature of Light, drops this Friday. Thanks for watching, and check out Defend the Sky on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen.